What's up? It's Wasabi again with another Borderlands 3 build. Today I wanted to discuss another fun Zane build that follows a quick run and gun playstyle, where you're running around freezing your opponents, all without the aid of a digiclone. I know, a shocker, because most Zane builds revolve around the Zane doppelganger, and for good reason, since the doubled agent skill tree is pretty potent. But I wanted to build with a different set of skills, specifically with the Hitman and Undercover skill trees. I actually prefer this build because of the change in playstyle that rewards good gunplay. If you like the constant movement of run-gun play method, this build really shines. To me, it's a bit reminiscent of Quake or Doom, where you're constantly on the move. So before I go on to the build, if you like the video, please like and subscribe for more weekly content. It really helps the channel out. And on to the build. Now, starting with the Hitman skill tree, of course you're using the Sentinel. Basically, it sends a drone into battle for you and helps attack those mobs with machine guns. Of course, you can modify it with different augments and use rocket pods instead, but that's totally up to you. Moving down the skill tree, the first skill tree you want to max out is Violent Speed. It's a kill skill where after you're killing an enemy, Zane gains increased movement speed for a few seconds. Now this is important because it's going to be paired up pretty much with Violent Momentum. This is another passive ability where Zane's gun damage is increased while moving. The quicker he moves, the greater the gun damage. So basically, you're running around and you do more damage. Always a plus. Now the next skill is Salvation. It's a passive ability. It's also a kill skill where after killing an enemy, Zane's weapons gain life steal for a few seconds. Very helpful for this build where you need something to keep yourself alive. I only put 4 points into it because I was trying to conserve every point and to push my skills down to the bottom tier. The next skill is Drone Delivery. Of course, you can only put 1 point into it, but as a passive ability, I think it's pretty cool to have a Sentinel dropping a free grenade every now and then, especially if you put a specific type of grenade on your drone, like a cryo freeze one. Pretty helpful for this build. The next skill is Death Follows Close. It's a nice passive ability where all of Zane's kill skills gain increased effect and duration. And again, it's only 1 point. For the augments, I put in one into Bad Dose, basically where the Sentinel occasionally shoots out a beam of radiation that weakens enemies and buffs Zane. For every weakened enemy, Zane's movement speed and fire rate are increased. And again, movement speed increase is it pairs well with the Violent Momentum, increases gun damage as a result. The other augment I put a point into was Static Field, where the Sentinel emits a static field that sends a shock beam to nearby enemies, draining their shields and replenishing Zane's. Anything that helps Zane survive is always a plus. Now it's personal preference, but if you want to use the other augments, by all means you can. The other one to consider is Winter's Drone, where the damage from the Sentinel becomes cryo damage. It's always helpful. It helps you slow and freeze your enemies much faster. Moving down the skill tree, we have Violent Violence. This is a passive ability and a kill skill where after killing an enemy, Zane gains increased fire rate for a few seconds. Now this pairs out very well with the other passive ability, Playing Dirty. This is a kill skill where after killing an enemy, Zane's next 5 shots all have a chance to fire an additional projectile. The reason why I like this is if you fire faster and you have a chance to fire an additional projectile, you have a better chance of proccing that cryo ability. Unless you're using a cryo weapon, but then again, you want to mix it up sometimes, especially with the different enemies with the different immunities. Now the next skill is Good Misfortune. This is a great passive ability where killing an enemy increases Zane's action skill duration. This skill has diminishing returns. It's great to be able to increase your special abilities, so I definitely recommend putting as many points as this as you can. And the final passive ability is Seeing Red, where activating an action skill automatically activates all of Zane's kill skills. I recommend putting a point into this for just the benefit of all those kill skills. Now moving on to the Undercover skill tree. This is where you have your barrier, where you drop a deployable barrier that blocks incoming projectiles. Zane and his allies can shoot through the barrier, dealing increased gun damage. Now I know a lot of folks don't like this skill tree, but it does have some benefits, and I think people neglect the fact that you can drop this barrier, pick it up, and drop it again. So it does have some versatility behind it. The next skill is Adrenaline. It's a great passive ability where Zane gains increased action skill cooldown rate. This bonus is based on the amount of shields he has. The more percent full, the greater the bonus. Anything that increase your cooldown is always a plus. I also put in a few points into the Hardy stock where Zane gets an increased maximum shield capacity. This is personal preference. If you want to put a few points here versus the other one, totally up to you. Moving down, the next skill is Brain Freeze. This is one of the core skills for this build. It's a passive ability where whenever Zane scores a critical hit on an enemy, there's a chance they will be slowed. This effect stacks until the target is frozen. What I like about this skill is it rewards great gunplay. If you're hitting your crit hits, you're going to slow down folks and get the benefits of controlling the mobs in the area. For the augment, I'd recommend using Charged Relay. Whenever Zane or an ally touches the barrier, they gain increased movement speed and reload speed for a few seconds. The benefit is the faster you go, it pairs up with this skill back on the Hitman skill tree where you do more gun damage with the violent momentum. The next skill is Rise to the Occasion. I would only put 2 points in here where Zane gains health and regeneration. The lower his shield is, the higher the bonus. The next skill I put a point into was the Confident Competence. While Zane's shields are active, he gains increased gun damage and accuracy. This bonus is based on the amount of shields he has. The more percent full, the greater the bonus. Anything that increases gun damage is always a plus. Now the next skill is Best Served Cold. This is a kill skill where whenever Zane kills an enemy, they create a Cryonova, dealing damage to all nearby enemies. This skill has a short cooldown. Now in going with the Ice Runner type of theme, I put a few points into here. It's pretty effective. Not the greatest, but it is always nice to have more damage available. For the next augment, I put a point into Retaliation, where Zane and his allies near the barrier gain increased gun damage for a few seconds after the barrier takes damage. Again, anything that increases gun damage is always a plus. Now the next skill is Calm, Cool, Collected. This is a passive ability where whenever Zane freezes an enemy, his shield instantly begins recharging. Now if Zane's shields are already full, he regenerates health for a few seconds. And if Zane's health is already full, his action skill cooldowns and durations are immediately reset. Now I'll say that it's a great passive ability, but you will rarely see it proc just for the fact that you're always constantly taking damage from those enemies and mobs out there. Now the final skill is Refreshment. It's a great passive ability where whenever Zane damages a frozen enemy with his weapon, he gains some of that damage back as health. Again, I was very conservative with my points, and I wanted to have at least 1 point into that ability. Anything that increases the chance that Zane will live. And it also pairs out very well with the Salvation kill skill. Alright, now on to weapon preferences and equipment. For me, I like having a fast reload and fast firing weapon. And because of that, I like those Jacobs hand cannons. Now, if you're having a hard time hitting those crit spots, you can always find a weapon with cryo efficiency. It's very helpful in slowing down the enemies as well. Also, if you can, find a COV weapon with a very large mag. It's always pretty helpful being able to hit the enemies and without having to reload. As long as you're careful with the fire rate, you should have no problem. Now for the shield mods, try to find something that adds more life or more shield or movement speed. I do have one that has increased movement speed, but unfortunately doesn't have the greatest mods on it. So I'm still looking for that ideal shield. Also, this one right here is a legendary. When depleted, releases a large Cryonova dealing damage and freezes enemies. Any shield mods that allow you to do more damage, always a plus. For the class mod, try to find anything that increases damage or the stats effect. This one I have, whenever Zane kills an enemy, he gains increased accuracy, handling, critical hit damage, stats effect damage, and stats effect chance. This is a great mod. I wish I just found one with some different modifiers on it instead. For the artifact, anything that increases damage, this one I have is pretty decent. Increases damage against frozen targets. For the grenade, if you're not using that porcelain pipe bomb, which is badly broken and very bugged, I wouldn't recommend using it because the fact that it just takes away the fun factor of this game. I would recommend using a grenade that has a cryo efficiency to it. Basically, it allows you to slow and freeze enemies much easier. Alright folks, that's all I have right now for the build. I do have some gameplay following this. But thanks again for stopping by the channel. If you do like the video or you found it helpful, please do the YouTube thing, like and subscribe. Other than that, wasabi out.
Personal space! I'm in this for the fun of it, and that was fun! Take a look at me, little friend! End of the road for you! These are garbage! Oh, junkin' thing!